Hey, do you have to align with the EU Taxonomy? In this episode, I'm going to talk to Dr. Julia Hiltscher, who's an absolute sustainability expert and helps a lot of companies to align with the EU Taxonomy. And in this episode, she's also going to tell you how you can do the same. Enjoy. Hey, Julia. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing right now?
Hello, and thank you for the invitation. My name is Dr. Julia Hiltscher. I'm the CEO of Dr. Hiltscher CSR, my own CSR consulting company. I have been doing non-financial reporting since 2017 under international and European laws and regulations. I have been mostly working in the games industry and IT industry. I have been working as a university lecturer, teaching corporate social responsibility. And I'm also a bit of a environmental activist myself and currently publishing a book with Routledge about the environmental responsibility of the games and the gaming industry.
That's super nice to hear. How did the whole topic start with you? So how did you get into the sustainability regulation topic in general?
I think one of the reasons is that I truly come from the games and esports industry already. As a child in high school, I ran little gaming competitions in my parents' garage, and I qualified for the World Cyber Games playing video games, and I became the German vice champion in Unreal Tournament in the World Cyber Games in 2004. And there has always been this historical problem that video games have been marketed towards only men and mostly white male for a really long time. Despite if you look back at early Atari advertisements, you often see housewives and their children playing video games even. But then there came this time where a lot of games were marketed towards boys only. And still today, many people think that the games industry or gaming is something that boys do or men do, while there's a lot of women interested in video games. And in the mobile gaming sector, 50% of the players are women. Still, there is this gap, and there's actually, because of the historical sociocultural reasons, still this unfair bias, which causes women to have more hurdles getting into jobs in the games industry. And there's been a Gamergate and things like that. So early on, when I noticed that I was the only woman working in an esports company, and I pushed for, people, the people team to interview more women, hire more talented women. And I always advocated for more women tournaments, the inclusion of the LGBTQ plus community. And it has always been a struggle, and still today. On the Equal Esports initiative that is run by SK Gaming and German Telekom, I'm in the advisory board, and I help to spread this information and help to push for diversity. And since I've always been so passionate about this, and since I'm also a mom, especially since 2017, I thought it would be nice for our esports company to be one of the first to have a very thorough um, CSR report to show the world that gaming is truly inclusive and can be inclusive and has these powers to teach people things, to teach people teamwork. Gaming is something intrinsic to humans. Humans learn a lot through gaming. is part of our today's information technology society. We're a very IT-driven society, and I hope that if we were looking into the latest EU regulations and we had a really great CSR report, then people would see that on a business model level, we were helping to drive diversity and culture, which we were. And so I got deeper and deeper into the regulations, and I learned the beauty of um, EU regulation, especially Green Deal and taxonomy, because it helps um, the companies and the financial institutions, the investors, to see at one glance what a company is doing, how sustainable a company really is. And that helps to advance all of the environmental, social, and governance topics.
Um,
Yeah, in
Before we get
general.
yeah, before we get into the European Green Deal a little bit further, I would be super curious to like understand how you got from like being in the gaming industry and like working for gender equality to then being like now an absolute expert on like all sustainability topics. Like, how did this transition happen and how was it in the beginning? Because I can imagine, like, when I look at the sustainability reporting and all the standards, it's like super overwhelming. There are so many different things and it's a very complex topic. So how was the transitioning process for you?
Laws and regulations are usually available online, and I am very lucky that the Electronic Sports League, a company that I worked for in Germany, but which worked truly internationally, they were part of a bigger group, the Modern Times Group, and that again is a Swedish group who already had to abide by EU laws in 2017. And I was the person, most passionately probably interested, like not even stepping on anybody's toes, but I have already listened to your other podcast episodes a little bit, and oftentimes it's like people in the finance department, they already have a lot to do. People in the legal department, they already have a lot to do. But I came in as a product manager who had been going through all like many different stages of the company, like both from startup phase in 2003 to when I got this much interested in EU regulation in 2017. I had been going through different departments of the company as well and worked for the company internationally. So I had been working in community management and public relations. Also, partially, I helped at the events when somebody was sick and you literally had to do everything like set up the tables and the land to run an esports tournament. I also took the photos. I ran the press area. I held press conferences and I rolled out tournaments all around the world. And I think that's great. And other people could copy the same. Like when we had to do regulation and made sense to regulation, and I pushed for the topic, it totally makes sense that somebody like me will do it because somebody like me who went through different departments for a longer time already has a good picture in the back of their mind, like where could our emissions be? What could our social responsibility be? And also what's our biggest leverage? And that already came out a little bit in the beginning now of this interview in my introduction, because esports is intrinsically inclusive, but there's also always issues with online toxicity and non-inclusion. So um, then on the business model level, that's exactly what you have to do as a games company. You have to make your events so that somebody's already old fan like me who's got children is comfortable at the event. And if the video game is like 16 plus, then you have to protect children's rights. They cannot be going to the event unattended. So that's already something where you think, my materiality as a games company is the CO2 footprint of people going to my event, the passion of my fan and the persona of my fan. I have the young fans who don't have children, who want to fully immerse themselves in the event, but maybe they are also looking to work in gaming one day. So I could provide educational information about the studies, like some universities like Staffordshire University or the Fresenius in Germany. They offer courses where you can learn something about esports and gaming. There's actual bachelors that are called like esports bachelors, where you learn how to do esports PR, event management, and all those things. So yeah, I come from the gaming and esports industry again, so I see the materiality like a blueprint in my mind. I don't really have to think about it that much. And then what I didn't know, what I really needed to know on top of that to write a good non-financial report, was the actual legislation. And for somebody who wrote their PhD also in esports, it's not that scary for me to read 350 pages about taxonomy because I wrote a 400-page book about MOBAs. MOBAs are like multiplayer online battle arena games like League of Legends or Dota 2. And I wrote about their risks and opportunities for culture. And I wrote about their how they are built, how does the game mechanic work, who is playing these games, what cultural aspects go into these games, what is the economic factor for the industry, and so on and so forth, because they are two of the three most played video games for the or always in the top 5 for the past 20 years. So I was asking myself, why are these two MOBA games this extremely popular? And so it can be both ways around. There can be somebody probably going to university now and study a bachelor on sustainability leadership, and then go into the company and learn, okay, this is a window and door company. What are they doing? What could be the double materiality? What could be the CSR analyzing our specific business model? But for me, it was the other way around, and I really liked it, that I already really know my gaming stuff, and I have I'm also parallelly writing a PhD about esports, and I start getting into the legislation, and I have the patience to read the paragraphs, and I'm actually a total facts nerd. So the same way I love to go into detail with video games, I love to go into detail with EU taxonomy. And since I'm a gamer, I'm gaming the system. So when I'm playing a video game, immediately I try to understand, how do you win? How does this work? Like, why is it so immersive? I want to know. And then when I look at the EU taxonomy, I don't think, oh no, it's like third page, all these paragraphs, I don't know what's going on. No, you go, you press your search buttons and you go like games, CO2, or I'm in the games industry, so I have something to do with data centers, with big data, with servers. Maybe the taxonomy is telling me something about servers. So you look for the word server, and then automatically you jump to paragraph number 8, which is data centers and server emissions. And if you contribute something to that, then we are already very deep in the EU taxonomy.
Okay. I think I understand now where you have your background from, and also how you can like translate your passion from like the gaming into this topic as well. Maybe just super briefly, can you tell us just a little bit in a few sentences about what your consulting business is right now? Like, what are the specific services that you help companies with?
Mm, I think already now I try to keep it short. So I think the audience now understands that I love to understand a business model and then use the taxonomy or CSRD as a blueprint to find out how can this company contribute the most to social and environmental sustainability and to maintaining a great best-in-class governance. And since I'm really curious about anything really, like I have consulted for automotive companies and all sorts of big data companies. And now I'm also consulting a company who do climate positive apparel. So I am really interested in all of the industries, and the more different industries I work in, the better. Because the games industry I have already seen, so it's not that exciting for me to open the hood of another games company and go like, "Ah, okay, yeah, they have server emissions, they have people, you know." I really love to look into bioplastics. I have a friend who creates bioplastics from sugar and CO2. She's in a lab in Ukraine. Um, so I love to work with all kinds of different companies. What interests me most, if a company is very obvious how they do, like how, like you're like, oh, I understand how this business model can make the world better. Then it's so easy to work for them. That's nice. But I also like the non-obvious, like the more challenging problem where somebody is not contributing yet to any of the taxonomy sectors, the six different contributions, and then you're like, oh, this is tricky, so I really want to know how we can transform this. So anybody can come to me, and I help to crack the difficult nuts, because that's kind of my thing, like to take a step back and look at all your company's departments, your core business model, and then there might be something that could be really like the game changer in racing into like best in class taxonomy reporting, best in class ESRS reporting in no time. And that can be done most of the time, but if you don't do that a lot, you don't know how. And you could actually compare this kind of consulting work to digital transformation, where it's exactly the same. People are like, oh, I think IT technology wise, we are in the Middle Ages. I don't know how to get to the next level. But if an IT consultant comes in, they can get you cloud solutions, they can help you with your data, and then you get up to speed in no time. And that's what we need experienced CSR people like myself for. And that's why I consult and teach a lot pro bono, because I want as quickly, because I said in the beginning, like I'm both a really good consultant, but I'm also an activist. So I'm like kind of doing both always at the same time, doing free keynotes. Really, I hope that we will. I hope this will come out in this podcast. I hope that, because I have prepared a couple of really awesome tips how you can do the taxonomy. Because I can't consult all the companies, but through podcasts like this, I can give people a couple of awesome tips and tricks how they can accelerate their work. Because I think, and that's so, you can't stress this enough, everything that we can achieve in the next 6 years is going to accelerate everything in terms of humanity. Like, that's why the logo of my company is HU, the human element. Like, we are the element, it's in our hands. We have the future in our hands. We made a lot of mistakes, or we lost a lot of opportunity and chances in the 70s and 80s and 90s. But we have shown we can close the ozone layer. We have shown we can like roll out electric transport much faster. I have just been to Morocco yesterday, and Morocco is much more advanced in terms of electric vehicles and loading stations than so many European countries. So I can see that Africa really wants to accelerate us to um, into a clean, a bright, a just future for everyone. And also a lot of people in China are doing it. in California, they are now trying to build train speedways between the motorway to save more emissions. Everybody around the world is trying so hard, and we need to be louder and more active together. Everything we can achieve between now and 2030 is saving us billions of euros. You don't even know how much, because the global warming is much more expensive than the transition. So it's a no-brainer to do it as best as we can.
I'm very sure that it comes across well that you're super passionate about the whole topic. And so I'm very sure about this. A couple of minutes ago, you touched on something very interested when you were talking about the EU taxonomy. And you said that it depends on like, whether it's obvious which goals they relate to, or sometimes it's also not that obvious. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit on the EU taxonomy goals that you mentioned, and to just bring this in a perspective for people that are not familiar with the concept yet?
Yeah, so it's fairly easy to understand, fortunately. That's why I love the taxonomy so much. So thank you again, European Union, and all the smart people who have been working on it. Um, so the EU tries to, or they are not trying, they are successfully through this taxonomy framework helping the companies and people looking at the companies to identify whether or not they are sustainable. And a company that is sustainable supports at least one of the 6 defined climate and environmental goals of the EU taxonomy. And those are either climate change mitigation, so maybe your company is doing something to mitigate global warming, or adaptation. Maybe your company is doing something to adapt to climate change, or maybe you are protecting water and marine resources, or which is often the case for everybody manufacturing something. Or I've been looking at many companies who do single-use items, and then now they look into compostable options. So if you are transitioning to a circular economy, you could be a sustainable company. Or if you are helping with pollution prevention and control. And number 6 is the protection and restoration of biodiversity and ecosystems. So those could be farms. That could be like a chicken farm that transitions from mass egg production towards a egg production that is at the same time restorative. Those are the 6.
And all companies have like support with one of the goals, or how can I understand that?
Yeah. So if you want to be a sustainable company according to the EU taxonomy, you have to tick a couple of boxes, and one box is please support at least one of the 6 goals that I just mentioned. And then what is also important is you cannot do significant harm to any of the 6, which makes sense. Like if you would support one of the 6, but you would do significant harm to one of the 6, then it like um, negates one another. And then you have to comply with minimum safeguards. That's number 3. So the people in your company cannot be in danger, like working for your company. There's a list in the taxonomy of minimum safeguards, which are quite easy to understand. And then number 4 is that you have to comply with the applicable technical screening criteria. So they want to be able to read your data. They want to know how you have calculated your emissions, for instance. And for that, there's simple guidelines in the taxonomy how you have to calculate. So, but it's really not rocket science.
Okay. Oh, very interesting. So there are like the 4 criteria that all the companies need to like be aware of. And one of the criteria is basically then to like actually do something sustainable, which is one of the 6 sustainability goals.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. When I talk to companies from for their perspective, like those are, as and we mentioned this before, sometimes like finance people or people from the controlling side that got into companies and are new to the topic. So when I talk to them, it's less about those sustainability goals and other things that we mentioned, and it seems more that that is a this is a financing topic. So that EU taxonomy is important for them to get access to capital in the future. How does those 2 topics relate in your opinion?
Again, this is another point why I think the taxonomy is very beautiful, because the taxonomy will help companies to understand their materiality and a lot of the things that they need to know when they get into reporting under ESRS. What I'm trying to say is the taxonomy PDF is important for the companies, and the same disclosures apply to the financial sector as well. So if you're Deutsche Bank or whatever bank, the same like your substantial contribution, not doing significant harm, and complying with minimum safeguard, and uh, calculating your data in a specific way. That applies to not only the companies but to the banks at the same time. So everybody is looking into the same framework. And then it's easy for the company to understand, like, how does the bank see me? And the bank has the opportunity to see all the companies uh, with, uh, like with the same factors. It's easy to understand. So is this company contributing to the joint European goal of becoming an emissions-free European Union, or not? And that's gonna be very crucial, because for now we don't yet know exactly how the sustainable companies will be supported. But of course, the EU that's the reasoning behind taxonomy as well. Of course, on the one hand, you want companies to report their data under taxonomy so that everybody reports in the same way and everybody looks at sustainability in the same way and has like the same vocabulary, the same way of looking at environmental and social responsibility and governance. So that's the one thing. And then the other thing is, though, that everybody who know is living, working under taxonomy really as best as they can and taking sustainability seriously, they will get better support, because the banks have to now reason why they are investing in some place. And soon enough, the market starts regulating itself, because the banks can no longer say, oh, there's just this silicium mine or this coal mine, I invest in it. No, you can't, because then you're basically hurting the taxonomy, because we saw if you're doing significant harm for no reason, and it's not evening out with contributing to the 6 positives, let's call them like the 6 positives that contribute to a clean and just future for humanity to have a future. But no, you're like heavily going into coal and also doing a few of helpful things. Then you're no longer um, considered sustainable, right? So the banks cannot just go into coal anymore. They have to focus on renewable and clean technologies.
And if I understood correctly, basically EU taxonomy helps to get some comparability among companies. So banks then know better, like, hey, what companies are actually sustainable, and then hopefully they're incentivized to like push the money more towards the sustainable companies rather than the ones that are not sustainable or even doing significant harm.
Yeah, and if you follow now talks about the system on a day-to-day basis, what's planned, of course, is billions of investments into the most sustainable companies, because those are supposed to be supported by a European Union Green Deal fund. They can get more money, and that's also what leads us to one of the other important parts of the taxonomy. The taxonomy tells you exactly what capex and opex to report on, and then in percentage in your non-financial report, or even like it's no longer a non-financial report, because companies that big, they now have an annual report, and that consists of your financial data and your non-financial data. And then under ESRS we will see they are investing 60% of their capex in only the sustainable technology or the social actions, and so on and so forth. So that you can't only see, okay, they are contributing to 3 of the 6 goals, they are doing no significant harm, and this is the amount of value of this company that goes directly into securing our joint future. So it becomes really easy to read, and then the European Union, when they give tax advantages, when they give fundings to the most sustainable ones, then they see other way around. The companies can go, oh, I want to invest more, and look, I'm 100% environmentally sustainable. Actually, what I do is saving our economy, because it protects us from the climate catastrophe. Like, my business model is really making a difference, then it's going to be very easy for them to get high sustainable investments.
Super interesting. Maybe switching the perspective a little bit from the legislation in general to the company perspective, because I'm talking to a lot of companies that are now faced with the regulation. Do you have any tips and recommendations for those companies? Or maybe even I'm always get asked for like free material or like a template or a checklist or something. Do you have any advice or helpful material that you would recommend to those companies?
Yeah, so uh, after the podcast, a lot about a lot of the things that I said today, I will prepare a simple PDF that can be downloaded in the show notes. And since we are, I think, close to ending this show already, and we have to wrap up, I would say, don't, like, never be afraid of the taxonomy, because it's not here make you um, to make you transparent in a way that your competitors will know exactly what you're doing. It's not like that. It's really about everybody in the EU having to abide by this. Don't forget everybody doing business in the EU. is now falling under the exact same law, because we always say EU taxonomy. So it's about people making business in the EU. No, it's about big players doing business in the EU. That's a totally different thing. Because if you have like less than 250 employees and less than 40 million turnover, you are yet still a smaller fish, and you do not have to do, for example, the CS due diligence directive and complicated things like that. No, what the EU is doing is really calling the bigger players to the table, and have already been calling the bigger players to the table, and they have to get up to speed and take over the bigger share of the responsibility, because they are creating like a huge pile of shoes, or they are selling cars, and that's the big pile of the emissions, right? Like transportation and goods and energy. So this means at the same time, we are sharing this great way of market self-regulation with the whole world. Companies from China and the United States and from everywhere selling goods in the EU, they are oftentimes making 40 million easily. And now they need somebody who is smart with EU taxonomy, understands it, and can help them to transform on a business model level. So EU is driving transformation globally. That's beautiful. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. And if you want to save a lot of money doing your taxonomy homework, please, please, please start with looking at your business model. Like, because why should you do your home? Like, no, I have two kids. Like, they wouldn't do their homework 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. They're not stupid. They would go like, this is my homework. This is the best I can do. Done. And then they go play. Okay. So please, companies, look at your business model. And then first you think about like, what's the problem with my business model? Like for gaming, the problem is that, for instance, we fly a lot of people to other countries, so we have flight emissions. And then we can't just go, oh, let's close our eyes, no more flight emissions. No, we have to try to be a bit more regional and a bit more reasonable with transport. And maybe we have to, then where we cannot avoid the emissions, we have to actually compensate for emissions. And then we have to do much better in all of our other areas. For example, make sure we have no server emissions. We invest in solar energy and things like that. So please look at your business model level. Like, what is my business model? How am I making money? And then that's where you get to transforming it. And then you report. Not just like this year, I close my eyes, I just write down what we are doing here. We are not transforming. We only transform like when there's a huge pressure or whatever. I would not recommend it, because I know car companies who are not so sure about what is the consumer going to buy next year. And now a lot of diesel cars are standing around, and the consumer did not really want to buy them, or did not really want to buy this or that. If you look at the Tesla story, like Tesla did not look again at business model level. And actually in Stockholm, there is Tesla, 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 Tesla. So people are buying these things. Did they look at this success story in Scandinavia? No, they didn't. They built big Jeep trucks in the United States, and nobody wanted to buy them because they are heavy and slow, and nobody wanted them. So when they started off, they made really great EVs, and then they made something that is not helping with the future of humanity. It's just helping with, I don't know, transport more wood or something for very very small group of clientele. Nobody really wanted that. And there they burned so much money. In the meantime, the Chinese were like, yeah, humanity needs clean transportation. Here is a variety of family-friendly cars. Boom. So they were understanding business model and transformation really well, where Tesla didn't. So please don't just report or have your marketing team lead your future, but bring everybody to the table, like bring sustainability and marketing and everybody in your company together and have an honest look at your business model. And then you go from there. I promise it is so easy and is the cheapest marketing you will ever do, because the majority of consumers want sustainability. Trust me, I have been working in the United States, in China, in Africa, all over Europe, and people want a future for their children. And if you truly do something for our future, people will really rip the product off the shelf. And don't make this mistake of being like Coca-Cola and have a only half serious approach about the packaging and about the sugar content. For example, EU law has a certain amount of sugar is allowed in the sodas. In the UK law, they have a much lower amount of sugar allowed. And you see that soda manufacturers, they are following that law in the UK, but it didn't mean that they also changed sugar amount in the EU. In the EU overall, it's still higher. So do they really care about young children's sugar consumption, or do they only care about compliance? And we need to do better than compliance as a humanity. It's in our hands.
No, completely agree with your message. And I also believe that the EU taxonomy is really a step in the right direction so that we can like now on a big company on compliance. Excuse me. And then hopefully to like even further that. And I feel like we could continue discussing about the topic for like hours and hours. But yeah, looking at the time, I would thank you for now, and maybe we can just like continue the conversation at a later point and then talk a bit more about how we can like get companies not only to compliance but also above that and help them to.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. It has been a huge pleasure. And yeah, maybe we do it again next time about another CSR topic.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.